did you beat it in 2.8 hours?
I farmed it for cards and I played a little bit and I was like, man, this game sucks.
Okay, because I was wondering why you chose this one for me.
Buyer's Remorse.
Hello, and welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Darren.
I'm Justin.
On Buyer's Remorse, we get each other to play games that we've paid for or got for free sometimes and are in our libraries. They're unplayed, and we like to discover if they are awesome buyer's confirmations or terrible, horrible buyer's remorses. I see the title. I played this one.
That would have been my first question. So the game you had me play was Dark Train.
Yeah.
You played it for 2.8 hours. So my first question is, did you beat it in 2.8 hours?
I farmed it for cards and I played a little bit and I was like, man, this game sucks.
Okay, because I was wondering why you chose this one for me. Let's get into some of the info. Dev and publisher Paper Rush Studio, also published by Atelier Dooku. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it.
Like Count Dooku?
That's how I'm going to pronounce it. That's probably wrong. Duchu.
Okay.
The overall reviews, very positive, with 95 reviews. The game was released in October of 2016. It is about $10 a base. Pretty much guarantee you I did not pay that, but not exactly sure where I got this one.
I don't know where I got my copy either. I think they gave this away for free on Indigala at one point.
That is possible, though I was playing it on Steam, so I may actually have it in both places.
I mean, like back in the day when they were giving us Steam codes.
Ah, okay. Well, then maybe. This game is, as far as I know, made entirely out of paper. All your characters, all the puzzles, all of everything is made out of paper. And I love the look of the game.
Me too. That's what really drew me into it.
I do think, though, they should have varied up colors a little bit, because sometimes your character of the squid, who has a name which I've forgotten, it says on the store page, sometimes a little hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is a form of gray. And that can be a little frustrating at times. This is another game where I think it starts off with something that is very interesting and sets you up for, hey, you're in for an interesting experience. You start off with a black screen where you hear a heartbeat. And each time you hear a heartbeat, a blue heart appears on the screen. That, to me, was very cool. And I loved that. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Why did Darren give me this? Because I see the very positive reviews.
Yep.
I see this opening. I see the pictures on the store page, which look very interesting. And I'm just a bit flummoxed as to why Darren would pick this for me. Play the actual game now. We move around a bit after the lights come on. And a sort of window opens and you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a dingy shipping area. Our squid is chained to we know it's going to be the train.
Yes. The dark train.
It's hidden behind a bunch of tin sheet metal, is what it looks like. They're all on chains as well. But yeah, it's like, okay, it's definitely going to be a train, but what do I need to do? And that is probably the best tag for the whole game, or the log line is, what am I supposed to do? And that is very, very frustrating for a very long time. There are lightning bolts crashing down everywhere, so I don't know what I'm doing. Here's something I'm just going to say. I'm going to give away a fair amount of spoilers if you really care about Dark Train. It's not a huge amount of story spoilers. There's not a lot. But if you want to go in completely not knowing what you're doing or where you're supposed to be going, well, then you may want to play and then come back, because what I did most of the time was click around like crazy, like a point and click game, and just try to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
There is a button that I found only because I looked at a walkthrough. I was like, I'm going to be sitting here for the whole hour and not get anywhere if I don't do something. So I looked up a walkthrough. Oh, okay, there's a button to press, antenna rise, and catch the electricity. There's now a purple glow. You can press something, a hole opens, you go inside, you grab a gear, and you place it where it belongs. You push the electricity down wires to power up sort of lighthouse. That's the weird thing about the game. I love it, but it's also a bit annoying, where you go in these holes on the train, and you're in a completely different area. So this area looks like a cityscape.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these sort of power lines that are charged, and you can see that, and occasionally one will light up. But it took me forever to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. You have to sort of aim the squid at a way so that it can push that ball of electricity down one of the wires, and once it starts moving, then it will continue on, because that's how electricity works. You have to push it first, but it'll light up things like the hotel, the background scenes, and you have to make sure you get all of them before you leave.
Right.
When you do that, then you can actually get into the next area. It's a lot of just keep trying. So there's a ton of those, like I said, the sheet metal that's covering the train, and you can't knock off one until you need that one. So you have to do everything in a linear fashion. But then, from what I understand, you will sometimes have to go back to areas. And in fact, even in my first hour, I did do that. They start to telegraph that a bit better later, but early game, I was just bumbling around. I really didn't know what I was doing.
That's what I was like. I just did not have a clue what I was supposed to be doing. And so I just eventually, I was like, I got it for free. I give up. You know, if I paid for it, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to maybe look up a walkthrough and try and get to the next part. But it wasn't interesting enough for me to continue.
You can open a compartment, and now you can start the train. The train will stop. You have to turn some dials and grab electricity. I think this is the part where you zoom in. Basically, you just see your two tentacles, and you have to move these two wheels, which luckily have wedge-shaped holes in them for your tentacles, to move them down so that you can grab this ball of electricity and just move it. So again, they have a very interesting concept of how electricity works in this world. But once you've done that, now the train starts moving and you get the title screen. It took me ages just to get to the title screen. Felt like this should have been the easy part.
Yeah, that was the tutorial.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get through the tutorial then, would you say?
You know, I didn't write it down. I would probably say 20 minutes. It would have been way longer if I hadn't used a walkthrough.
Right.
In my notes I put, yeah, it's beautiful, but I'm confused as to what I should be doing.
Yeah.
You are going to get another platform on the train. So, like, there's different... I don't really know how to put it. Like, there are different rooms within the train. In the train, for example, like one of the first ones you go to, there is a leaf that lights up. And when it lights up, that starts to tell you, okay, this is where I need to go. So you go into there, and you're in a forest, but I could see a birdhouse, I could see a pond, I could see what looked like a cave with eyes that would appear occasionally. I didn't know what to do. So again, back to the walkthrough. There are stars in the sky, and you just have to sort of go over them to draw a bird shape. But it's not like, oh, I have to literally connect the dots in order. If I had just flown around the stars enough, it would have just happened.
Okay.
I just was looking at everything else that seemed like I should be interacting and not looking at the stars. Mm-hmm. It's going to drop something which I put in question marks, egg, which I do think it is an egg, which we will get to. Well, actually, we can get to that now. So the very first room that you're in, that one with sort of a window that you had to escape from, that's essentially going to end up having a nest, and the egg will go inside, and I think, I mean, major spoiler if I'm right, you're hatching the next squid. Mm-hmm. And so this thing is always going to be a cycle. That is my guess.
Right.
It's going to be a long time before you get to the point where the egg goes back in there, though. This is one of the times where you do have to come back, though, because you have to come back to get the egg, which made zero sense to me, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Outside, the train has stopped. This happens somewhat frequently. You just have to keep catching the lightning every time. It's not a thing where, oh no, I have to wait for the lightning to come. Once you need it, it will be there.
Right.
But timing the antenna can be really difficult because it seems to be just at the right time. So, oh no, it hit on the left side of the screen. No, not hit on the right screen. It's not hitting right where I need it to, and the antenna doesn't stay up.
Okay.
The first time it seemed to, but now it seems to be like, okay, now I need to time it, which should not be. Just, if you're going to do this constantly of making me have to power up the train, just just let it be easily caught. There's also a light on top of the train which you can turn on, which I think maybe I did for a while, and then I thought maybe that's why the electricity keeps running out. So I turned it off, so I think that you would probably last longer without it. The lights don't really do anything. You can see everything, at least in this part of the game. Maybe later that becomes important.
Maybe you got to switch all the lights off to become the dark train.
Well, that's possible, too. Okay, go back inside. There's a cemetery in autumn, and orange leaves everywhere. There's a statue with a sword, and a cathedral sort of in the background. Like, okay, I can see that there are these empty lanterns, and I know that I need to light them up. There are also some candles on the ground, but I can barely see everything. Well, it's actually not that bad. I can see most of this stuff. There are a few things that are hard to see, but I'm pretty sure I need to get the candles to light, but I don't have anything to light them. Tried a lot. And it's a beautiful screen with the orange leaves and everything. It looks great. But I was so angry at the screen because you can't do anything else.
Right.
The game is very linear in its puzzles. You have to do them in order. At least that's the way it seems. Walkthrough. I definitely need a walkthrough because what you need to do, and keep in mind, on the train there are many things that you can click on. There are at least 5 or maybe 6 things, even at this point in the game, I can click on. It moves sort of a door out of the way or something so that you can see inside. And I don't know what most of them do. And at this point in the game, I knew what 0 of them did. Actually, I would say it's more like 8 things that you can open up, which is way too much considering I don't know what any of them do. There are 3 I've still not figured out. They all look the same. They have small holes in them, but I can't get into them. Don't know what they do. There are ones on either end of the train, which I don't think I quite figured out. There's one in the middle, which has a flame logo and what looks like a gauge, and I couldn't figure that one out.
Light the candles with that.
Believe me, I tried. But that's not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is you have to go into a different section. And in this section, I don't know what's going on. I really don't. There's a fire symbol, an electric symbol, a water symbol.
Okay.
And you can switch those to either being arrows going up or arrows going down. There's also a thing where you can look at what's going on outside of the train from this room and send the squid out. So you're still in this room with all the gauges and sending the squid out. I'm not sure what's going on there. I really don't.
Okay.
But what you have to do is you have to switch things around. So my understanding is that, and believe me, I used a walkthrough for this because I would not have figured this out. I was just watching the video. So the video with no explanation. So I'm having to sort of look at what they're doing and try to intuit what is it they're doing and how do I do it. And one of the things was switching the electricity one direction sort of makes, it's different antenna. So I think one is collecting and one is shooting out. Same thing with water. There's a way to collect water so that you're putting up this sort of funnel which will collect water, and then there's another one that shoots water out. There's a part in the game where you come across a burning building and you have to collect water and then switch it and then put the fire out. Though the rain is infrequent, so sometimes you have to wait for the rain to come back again. Same thing with fire, though. So what you need to do is you need to set it so that it's collecting the heat. Then, as you're going, you have to use one of the doors at the bottom. Click on that, because that will have the brake going. The sparks create heat gathered by your whatever device.
Okay, Jesus.
And then that will light the candles. You also use this, there's a weird pig-shaped train that comes out and tries to attack you later, and you have to hit it with scalding water. So yeah.
Man, the more you explain this game to me, the more I want to try it again.
It does seem like the type of game you would play.
Yeah, I don't know why. I honestly don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even think I made it to the credits. I didn't know what was going on. Because if I recall correctly as well, the way that you fly the squid around the screen, it feels like you're flying a kite.
Yeah, it feels very much like that.
Right. And I just didn't know what was going on. I was like, this game looks pretty, and again, I think I was just in that mentality. I got this for free. It's got cards. I'm just going to get the cards and I'm done. I can't be bothered learning this game. But now the way that you're describing it, I was like, man, this sounds exactly like something that I would want to play.
I mean, this feels like a GAPS game because it does not hold your hand in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And you just have to figure it out. And that would be, for you, part of the fun of the game.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it is the absolute frustration of the game. I don't want to feel like I'm lost most of the time, and that's the way I felt. But I could see you really enjoying this, and then having to coach me through it.
Right.
I don't want to go too much further in, but I will talk about the cemetery, because there is an issue here. So, with the candles on, you can carry the light to the lanterns, right? Okay, a little weird. I think this is a time where you can sort of carry it in the tentacle. It just kind of catches, or maybe is this where there's like a flame that you get out of the bottom and you can use that to light them. Some of them are really hard to see.
Right.
That was the issue before. So I could see what was going on as far as candles in some of the lanterns, but some of them are just like, where is it? Where is it? So fly everywhere on the screen until you get it. Now you can go into the cathedral, and this one just stopped me cold, and I did not enjoy it. There were clocks on 4 different statues. There's a chain you can very awkwardly push down, but there's not a chain on the other side, so you have to do something to get the other chain. And then I just didn't see anything to interact with. In front of the statues, there are pieces of a wreath.
Okay.
That's what you need to move, but moving them was incredibly awkward and incredibly difficult. And they've put 2 pillars at the foreground of the scene. And you have to move the wreath pieces behind the pillar. And it's very easy to move the squid in a way where, oh, I'm not actually pushing the wreath piece anymore. It's behind the pillar somewhere. And they sort of float in the air, so you're not exactly sure where you left it. Or at least I didn't know where I left it. I nearly quit here, but my hour wasn't up. So this is where I had to keep going. But I used the walkthrough to figure out what I was even supposed to be doing. There's also an issue with the fact that they have the squid sometimes go foreground to background. So you sort of have to go all the way to the right side of the screen or left side of the screen. And then it will fly off. And then it's smaller and it's now in the back one.
Okay, I understand, yeah.
But it's often way too easy to make that happen. So as I'm trying to get one of the wreath pieces from the left side of the screen, I'm now in the background and I have to go all the way back to the front again. You're doing this to basically touch the full wreath. Once you put it all together, it locks together easily. That part is good. That will put a nest in that room where I think you're raising the next squid.
Okay.
And then you have to go back to the forest area, and you have to do a weird thing where you touch a rock, which I just didn't do.
What's so hard about touching a rock?
Well, there's nothing in there to tell me, oh, this is what you need to do. But then it makes a tree hologram appear, and you have to move that around to move the egg. It's maddening.
I've got to play this again. I have to play this game again.
I definitely think you should. I think you definitely should. I think that you'll enjoy it in every way that I don't.
So wait a minute. So let me get this straight. So you're doing these things like making this wreath in another room, but it's like almost symbolic and it's making changes in the train carts, like building a nest.
In the one special room, yes.
Okay.
But you can access that room, the sort of egg room, from the menu, which, okay, let me talk about.
There's more.
There's more. Every time you start up the game, it makes you choose a language.
Okay.
In a game where it doesn't use any words ever. And when you start it up and you do that, you don't really get a typical menu. When you click on an icon, like 3 things appear. It's like, do you want to be the squid? Do you want to be looking at the egg room? Or do you want to go to the options? And there are not many of them.
Okay.
And I think even the options are not in English. Like, I don't know why it keeps making me pick a language. I guess so I know what my title screen should look like. When you ask about what makes things change, it's not that it just happens. It's not a sort of, I don't know if I want to say this, but a missed thing where things just happen in a different screen, but you don't see them. You do see a claw come down and grab the wreath. You do see a claw come down and grab the egg. So they do have a sort of visual mechanic for showing you, we are taking this thing and we are putting it somewhere else.
Right, okay.
I'm not sure exactly where I finished in my hour. I did play beyond my hour, is what I would say. So some of the stuff I've said may be beyond the hour, and it may not be in the video because I only recorded the first hour of play.
Why did you go beyond the hour?
I think I felt I was starting to get it. I was starting to understand it. And there were some things like the leaf would light up, the cross would light up, and I would start to go, okay, I know I need to do something in that room. And you'd also see things like the first electricity thing that looked like an electric tower that I had to push the electricity down. That whole area, all of these areas, after you do the first one, they change. And so they look different as though time has passed.
Okay.
And I found that very interesting. But I think I only played until I felt lost again, and then I was done. So I would say I maybe played an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours max, but an hour and a half would be much more likely. I don't feel, though, that I did much in that hour, and I don't even really feel like I did that much in an hour and a half, because most of the time I just felt lost.
So, who would you recommend this for then? I mean, obviously me. I think you sold me on it. I think I'm definitely going to reboot this one up.
I would definitely recommend it to you.
Yeah.
I think visually I'd recommend it to most anyone that wants something interesting. This one, it feels very unique and very special. The controls, a bit less so. The puzzles, a bit less so. But I think that it's a fun experience to jump in for an hour. I'm not sure I'd recommend the whole game. And I'm not sure I'd recommend doing it on your own with no walkthrough or no anything. I don't think I would have made it to the title screen if I hadn't used a walkthrough. I think this is one of those games that ideally you'd be sitting with a friend who's already played it and who can hint you through it without just giving you the answer.
Yeah, fair enough.
The walkthrough, I've looked at a couple of them now, and they all start with, well, here's what I wish I knew, which is mostly stuff about how the train works. Because there's no guide to it, and it doesn't really make sense. It's not intuitive. So even things like, when I get to the walkthrough and it says use the brakes, I'm like, well, where are the brakes? I don't even know where they are, how to use them. That is a huge help. And I'd almost recommend just, if you're going to play this game, read through the first section of a walkthrough where it gives you that information, because that will help you immensely. Otherwise, you won't have a clue. Well, at least I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing most of the time.
What tags would you give it then? I
gave it good physical visuals, atmospherically beautiful, and I'm lost.
Where's the walkthrough? And so, I don't know. I think I know the answer to this one again. Buyer's confirmation or buyer's remorse, Justin?
Had I not used a walkthrough, it would have been a remorse, because I would have been stuck probably at the tutorial stage.
Immediately, yeah.
Seeing what they did with it. I mean, I love the visuals. That was a given. You probably suspected that would be. The puzzles are not great because, again, I often feel lost. But what they're doing with the visuals and how the visuals changed between what they were the first time I got into that room to what they were doing later, what I think is going to be the cyclical story, the fact that it's on a train that looks great, the music, like a lot of what they said. I mean, I said atmospherically beautiful because they've really set up this world. It was a really frustrating hour, but when I think about it, I think less about, oddly for me, I think less about the frustration, and I think a lot more about, oh, that was interesting the way that looked, and that was kind of interesting what they're doing. I think this is the type of game that I would love to see them try something else, but improve on the gameplay. And if they could do that, that would be great. As it is, for 1 hour, I'm going to give it a confirmation.
Buyer's confirmation.
I've got to up my remorse game here, man, or you've got to buy shittier games.